Let's go.
Let's do this. Barry, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. He's ready. Yes! Oh, my goodness gracious. You made it to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for the likes of AAPD, Forbes, Dun & Bradstreet, a lot of other mid and large companies. Every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. That's right. It's like you can picture me handing it to you on a silver platter every week. We talk shop, and it's all about the audio engineering aspects of podcast production. We don't get into, listeners or marketing or branding or anything like that. It's all about the audio engineering. I have a background in the music business as an engineer and producer. And if you implement the best of what you hear on this show, you will produce podcasts that sound a lot better, and the production will take you less time. And that's always a factor, right? The time factor. How much time you're spending on this. So, of course, Barry is here with me. Barry is the maintenance guy in my old building in New Jersey. And somehow, magically, he's always sitting with me here at the table. Barry, this is going to be awesome today, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's right. And by the way, I want to quickly mention Podcast Engineering School. Learn how to produce and engineer podcasts professionally at the Podcast Engineering School. Just go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. The next semester starts soon. And I'm saying soon because I want it to be evergreen. When someone listens a year from now, I don't want them to hear the wrong date or something. But anyway, Podcast Engineering School, I'm actually giving 4 semesters a year now. That's the plan for at least for 2018. So about every 3 months, another semester will start. You'll have the option to jump on there. So today, my guest is from New Zealand. Right, Sam? You're from New Zealand?
Yeah.
New Zealand, which is a place I want to go. He's Sam Matla. He is an electronic music producer. He's the host of the EDMProd. And yes, I said Prodcast, not podcast. Although, Sam, I did see your show listed as the EDMProd podcast.
Yeah, so funny story behind that. I thought that the Prodcast would be a good name. And so I posted in our group and I was like, hey guys, what do you think?
Right.
I want to call this a Prodcast. They're all like, this is so cheesy, man. Don't do that. And so I was like, okay, I'll call it the EDMProd podcast. And then I did that, and then everybody came back and said, oh man, why didn't you call it the Prodcast? That's such a clever name. I'm like, okay, well, I'll change it then.
Right? So man. Thanks a lot to your friends. Jeez. Well, yeah, so EDMProd, that's the name of your company. And you actually offer courses for people to learn how to produce electronic music. So it's the EDM Foundations course. That's the name of the course. And your website is... Oh, I had it here.
EDMprod.com. Yeah,
EDMprod.com. Anyway, that'll all be in the show notes. But I'm psyched to talk to you because, first of all, you're an audio guy. You're producing music, but you're also hosting a podcast. So let's start off with the speed round. Sometimes I forget to do the speed round, but or sometimes it's just not necessary. But let's do it. So, Sam, you're about ready to. You need to do the speed round in about 60 seconds. So you're about ready to record a podcast. Just walk us through your whole signal chain, like what mic you're using, where it's plugged in, and then all the way through to the computer, like where you're recording it, and just give us the quick update.
Yeah, it's really simple. So I have a Bluebird microphone plugged into a Scarlett 2A2. It's going into the computer, and then most of the recording is just done through Zencastr because I came across that about a few months back, and it's amazing. And then everything else is done in post through an Ableton.
Ableton!
Oh, and the headphones I'm using are ATH M50s.
What are they?
Audio-Technica ATH M50s. They're not super expensive, but I like them. I've had this pair for like 3-4 years now.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about Ableton because it's Ableton Live, right? That's the official name?
Yeah.
Okay, Ableton Live. It's a DAW, sort of, mostly, but it's also, and I have it and I use it sometimes when I do make some loops and stuff. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But yeah, Ableton Live is like a lot of DJs use it because you can loop stuff and you can also like change the tempo, like you can morph two loops together like the DJs do when they change up the beat, and it just morphs together seamlessly. That's usually done with Ableton Live, right?
Yeah.
So, but you can also use it like a DAW. You can record just 3 or 4 audio tracks and then produce them. So, all right. So we're gonna go through all this. What was the mic again? A blue what?
Bluebird, I think. I don't know the exact name. It's just like it's a condenser. I got it off Sweetwater with the audio interface. Like, it was a package Black Friday deal, and it's just good. Like, it does the job.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the space you're in, then the little studio. So wait, do you have like an official studio where you're sitting?
I moved house on Tuesday.
Oh.
And so I've got like this. Yeah, I've got like a dedicated office now in the house. But if it sounds a bit echoey, it's because there's no treatment in here, and still kind of getting everything set up. So, yes, a studio. It's just not like it. It doesn't look like one.
Got it.
Put it that way.
So yeah, and you're really close to the mic because I don't have my headphones turned up very loud. So that's one thing when I'm actually recording, I don't have them turned up loud. So it's hard for me to hear if there is a lot of echo. But I don't think I hear a lot of echo. I think you're probably real close to the mic, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's cool. Yeah, because you have a condenser, and in podcasting, like people, they have rooms with hardwood floors and condenser mics, and it's like, sounds like they're in a gymnasium. So, all right. And so let's talk about your music production real quick. So what? For electronic music, most of the instruments you use are like samples and synths and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for the most part. And I mean, nowadays you're seeing a lot of kind of a hybrid approach. But as for me, I'm doing most of the work just with software.
Okay. Do you play any instruments?
I do. Play drums, guitar. Wish I could sing. I can't, but...
Really? I can't sing either. I'm a drummer, and I can't sing at all. But sometimes on this show, I'll like belt out a line or two.
Nice, man.
It's horrendous.
Do it now. Go.
No. It's horrendous. And plus I'm just getting over being sick. So
good point.
And I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're like, Chris, you've been sick for 7 weeks. Well, no, I really haven't. It's just I recorded a bunch of episodes during the week and a half that I was sick. So, all right. So you got the condenser mic. So do you must have like a pop filter in front of that or something, right?
Yeah, it's just CAD. It's like it just hangs off the mic stand, which comes in from the side of the desk. Hopefully it works.
Right? All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't hear any pops. So and then you got that plugged right into the Focusrite.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so are you the only host of your podcast? It's just you?
Yeah, just me. Well, initially when it started, there was a co-host, and we would just kind of talk about a topic, but life got busy for him and ended up just being me interviewing others.
Okay, and it's always over the internet.
Yeah, and I should mention, like, now, since probably halfway through last year, the editing is done by the only other full-time employee at EDMProd. So he crushes it on the editing side. Before that, I did it and kind of passed down some systems and approaches to podcast editing. So I don't handle that part anymore.
Okay. So we'll get to the editing. Well, I might as well ask you now. So when you were doing the editing yourself, did you literally do all the editing in Ableton Live?
All of it, yeah.
Really?
Which it probably isn't the best tool for podcast editing, but I think the reason I just use it is because it's what I know, and I didn't want to invest the upfront time or cost in learning another system. And for its purposes, like for editing a podcast, it's just fine. Like it does the job. But yeah, just live.
Okay. And so you got your your Blue microphone plugged right into the Focusrite 2i2, and it's a condenser, so it obviously needs phantom power, which the 2i2 has. And you didn't mention what kind of computer you have.
MacBook Pro, released in 2015, 2014. That's a few years old now. 2015, yeah.
Okay, so that's good. And so you literally do everything on that MacBook Pro.
Yeah. Real simple setup, like I said.
Cool. So, all right. So then sometimes you use, or you mainly use Zencastr for doing interviews. Is that right?
Yeah, as of probably October or November. Before that, it was Skype, which so many issues with Skype. I mean, yeah, it just wasn't good. Zencastr's awesome.
By the way, Josh from Zencastr, he's the guy who he is Zencastr. I think he's in New Zealand now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh man,
I know. You should meet up with him. I met up with him last summer at Podcast Movement. He was there. He came by the booth, and that's when I got my Zencastr T-shirt. It's purple.
Oh, nice.
Anyway,
man.
that was cool. Yeah, Zencastr's good. The only time I ever have trouble with Zencastr is when it's never. Well, I should say it's almost never Zencastr's fault. I mean, there has been time, like there was a day about 3 or 4 months ago when literally Zencastr went down for like 6 hours and just it didn't work. But
yeah, no, I remember that.
Yeah, but that was like that. Literally, I don't even think that ever happened before, and it hasn't happened since. But most of the problems come from people, like participants, not having a good computer or using a computer that they haven't restarted in like 7 months, and having like 94 windows open and 79 programs running. Right? Is that your experience too?
Yeah, or they have really bad internet.
Oh, that's true. Oh, Wi-Fi. Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh man. Whew.
It's so weird. Is the Ethernet cable dead? I don't know. It's just.
Yeah.
I don't. But if you're so for guys like us, it's not, because we know we need it and we want it. But I think for like just the average person, like literally the Ethernet cable is like the dinosaur or the dodo bird.
Yeah.
So, all right, so the MacBook Pro, and then you go into Ableton Live, and so wait, when you're recording with Zencastr, you just have Zencastr open, and you obviously you record yourself and your guest with Zencastr, but do you also record yourself locally, just a straight, clean track of yourself?
When I remember to. So, you're calling me out, like I should have that backup, but yeah, it doesn't, completely honest, doesn't happen all of the time.
Okay.
But ideally, I would be recording natively into Ableton or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could probably just open up Ableton Live and, record on one track and just, input your voice on that track and then just boom.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the best because, well, wait, when you use Zencastr, do you use the wave recording functionality or?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so wait, so what do you tell your guests then? You have to tell them like to stay on the call like afterwards, right? I just say at the start, well, two things. When we're setting up the interview via email, I have this PDF, Prodcast guest guide, explains how it all works, explains Zencastr, and there's a little note in there that says, please stay on the call until your file is uploaded. Like, don't close the tab. You can leave, just don't close the tab. I like to talk to guests after the interview anyway, just to, like have a chat and talk about other things. So it's normally not an issue, but I'll also say, hey, could you just wait like 5 minutes or so while this uploads? Yeah. And so what else is in that PDF that you send to guests beforehand to get them ready? What else is in there?
I'll bring it up actually, but one thing is what to expect from the podcast. The way I like to do it, it's very informal, and we dive into their background a lot, their story, so on and so on. So there's that. Second thing is please use the highest quality mic you can find, or that you have. Like, avoid using your laptop speaker because it's just not going to sound good. And we've had some people complain. It's like you're running a podcast about music production and the audio quality on the guests end sucks. There's not much I can do about that.
Right.
But I firmly ask if they can use like a headset, or a lot of producers have microphones anyway, so it's fine. The other thing is like make sure you have the time, and also make sure your internet connection is good. And then from then on, it's a little talk about Zencastr and then a few other things, but that's basically it. It's been really helpful, and I stole it from what's his name, Audio Skills. Here's a podcast, and he had me on his show, and he sent me this PDF. It's like, this is awesome. I need to like take this idea and use it for myself. So it's not my idea, but it's been really helpful instead of going back and forth through email trying to sort everything out.
Cool. All right. So now I want to ask you about a little more about Ableton Live. So when you record on Zencastr, then you bring in the 2 tracks into Ableton Live. Do you how much like what kind of mixing or processing do you do within Ableton Live?
Yeah, so when I used to edit, and Connor, he does it pretty much the same way I do or did. I'll create 2 tracks and then, name them, color them appropriately, and then compression, bit of EQ when needed, and usually it's just the same. For my voice, it's the same every time because my settings are kept the same. So there's not going to be much variance there. For the guests, it can be different. So I play around with that for a bit. And sometimes I think volume automation is underestimated. I think a lot of people just reach for the compressor, because there have been interviews I've done where for whatever reason, there's a 1 minute segment where the guest is way closer to the mic and it's way louder. And it's like, well, I could just add a compressor here, or I could just turn down the volume for like this 1 minute segment. So do a bit of that, which normally just happens while editing. Because I'm very time conscious, the podcast isn't the core of the business. It's a very good marketing tool. I wanted to kind of streamline the editing process. So I pretty much did everything while I was listening through. And while I was listening through and editing, I would take down the show notes instead of having to listen to it again and again. Back to editing, I used iZotope Ozone on the master just to get it up to the right volume. And then from then, I'd have a few other tracks for like, jingles or audio cut-ins, because it's a production show. If a guest mentions a song of theirs, we'll just cut that in or fade it in so that people listening have an idea of what they're talking about. And yeah, I think that's about it. One technique that really helped with streamlining the process and show note writing is we would listen through, and then at each point, like at each topic change, so let's say we're talking about their background, and then they start telling a story about how they were playing a show and X, Y, and Z happened, we would cut it there and then just title the clip in Ableton saying story about X, Y, and Z. So when it came time to rendering or exporting the file, we could just look at those time slots, turn it into a document and say, look, at 20 minutes and 18 seconds, we talked about this, and so people listening can go in and just listen to that particular topic.
That's cool. That's a cool technique. I like that. And how many like different segments might there be in a standard episode?
Oh man, we try to do them. There might be 4 or 5 core topics, but within that there might be 10 to 20, like in total 10 to 20 different segments. So it really depends on the interview. I don't know if there's like a set amount. Some interviews people can talk about one thing for ages. Other interviews people jump around like crazy. Right. All right, and then when you got it sounding good, then you export it. And what resolution do you export it as? MP3, because that's how we upload it.
Got it.
So yeah, like there's an 128 kilobytes MP3 as well. Though I've been thinking about that a lot, and I don't know if that's... What are your thoughts, actually? What do you upload as, and why?
So yeah, uploading. So just I mix to actually a WAV file, because I like to keep a like an uncompressed sort of like full resolution mix of the.
Oh,
of the
I
final.
do that too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
and then I turn it into an MP3. Okay, so then, so when I finally upload it, I do just the standard, probably same as you, stereo 128 kbps, and if it's mono, then it's 64 kbps. Yeah, which is known to be the standard, and
exactly.
In terms of podcasting, in reality, there's no need to go higher than that, as long as it sounds like if you're putting any effort into making it sound good and making sure the level's good, meaning the loudness, when you finally make the MP3, 128 for stereo is fine, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
I actually just saw on Facebook some guy. I think he's just getting into podcasting, and he's like, "Oh, I want to upload my final episodes at 24-bit, 48 kilohertz." and everyone was like, "Oh, dude, no, you can't do that." Like,
you know what? I'm so glad that people don't do that. The last 2 days, even now, I haven't had internet because I just moved into a new house, so I'm using my phone for data. And in New Zealand, like it's not the cheapest, it's not horrible, but I've been listening to podcasts, and it's like these are 40 megabyte files. That's awesome. It's not going to use up that much, and I can listen to like a 1 hour interview. If it was uploaded in Wave and I was streaming that,
yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes I listen to Audible. I listen to like audiobooks, and like when you buy an audiobook, you can actually like you download it onto your device, right? Those files are so small. Like literally a 12-hour audiobook will be like 114 megabytes, and I'm like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but I thought I would think that if you make the bit rate and the sample rate, if you really bring them really low, I thought it would sound like crap. But these audiobooks, I mean, it doesn't sound great, but it sounds fine. Right?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
I thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. I don't know. Maybe it's not MP3. Maybe it's that AAC format that's supposed to be even better and smaller. I don't know. So you obviously put everything out in stereo, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yep. So, all right. So then your MP3, then of course you tag the MP3, right?
Tag the MP3, and then we upload it to SoundCloud, which the reason we use SoundCloud as a host has a lot to do with the fact that that's where the community is, or at least was based. Our target market is producers, and SoundCloud is,
right,
for the most part, where producers congregate. That's kind of changing though, with, I don't want to say the downfall of SoundCloud, but like the decline. But still use it for a podcast host. There was a bit of a scare when they said they might be shutting down. I was like, I have to move everything over to something else like Libsyn. But use SoundCloud. That goes through Podtrac to create a feed, and then the feed just gets distributed, iTunes, Stitcher, so on and so on.
Wait, Podtrac? I thought you could generate a feed directly from SoundCloud.
You can, but you can't. Why did they say? They might have changed it now.
Okay.
But they said you need to use Podtrac for analytics or something.
Okay.
I can't actually remember.
Yeah.
This was a SoundCloud article, though. They said, like, use Podtrac.
Right, yeah. So maybe that was... Well, wait, how long ago did you start the show?
Would have been August 2015.
August 2015. Okay, yeah. So maybe that was before Sound... Because even in the recent past, SoundCloud did not offer an RSS feed. And then that was a big deal when they finally did offer that. So maybe it was right around then.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
So Podtrac...
Perhaps I came across that, but I just like... It was already in place, so I didn't change.
So Podtrac now, so what, you have... It's a media... Is it a media host? No, it's not a media host. What is it?
No. This is really confusing, actually, because it takes the... It must take something like a feed from SoundCloud, and then it shortens it or something like that, and then it's like a middle point, between iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. But we really just use it for analytics.
Yeah. So the analytics, well, that's helpful. So that's true. Maybe SoundCloud doesn't have good analytics, and maybe it's only analytics. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure it's if you're listening to this.
Yeah, I think it's just for analytics.
Okay.
I must have just read something and it was like, use Podtrac, and then I just did it. But it's obviously not necessary.
Got it. And then you have it on, obviously, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. So wait, if SoundCloud is sort of not really, if the whole music scene is changing and not all the music producers and people are on SoundCloud, where are they going?
Spotify.
Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify.
Wow.
And the unfortunate thing is, like you can't just manually add a podcast to Spotify at the moment.
Oh.
Because it's very, like they're bringing people on as they choose, like big podcasts. Right. So we'll see.
Well, actually, now with Libsyn, if anyone with a Libsyn account now, like you could set up Spotify as a destination, and it'll just send it right there, and it's immediately accepted, and you're in.
Really?
Yeah, because I just started a new show, and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, great! We're gonna see how long this takes to get on Spotify." And literally, I set up the destination, and I don't even know. Maybe within a week, literally, it was. I found it in Spotify, and I'm like, cool.
Oh man!
But that's because Libsyn, is working with Spotify on making sure the feed is good, and that kind of thing. And I guess maybe podcasters would be more, in general, be more reputable if they're using Libsyn than another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe
I would say so.
That's a stretch. That's just a guess right there on my part. So I don't want to sound.
I have heard some pretty terrible podcasts using Libsyn, but whether they're like the majority or not is another thing.
Right. So then, all right. So then, do you use some of your own music in your podcast? You must, right?
Yeah. So sometimes we'll have non-producer guests on, like industry folk, managers, PR agents, all that kind of stuff. And when we have those guests on, they don't have their own music. If we have an artist on, we'll actually play their music as the intro. And at certain points, because it just makes sense. And so when we don't have an artist on, we'll use like a clip. Sometimes it's just a clip that I've made. It's not finished. Sometimes it's something from Connor. And there has been one or two times where like I literally had nothing around. I just didn't have time to like put something together. And so I just posted on Facebook like, hey, got an episode coming out, don't have music. Send me a message with like a link to a song of yours and I'll include the one I like the most. And within 2 minutes, this guy messaged me a song. It was awesome. I was like, cool, I'll give you credit. That happened. So, yeah.
See, this is interesting though. You're using a bunch of, like when you have a guest that's an artist and you use their song as the introduction for the episode, like what happens when it goes on Spotify? Like they're going to flag that, I think, and say, oh, that's copywritten music. You can't use that. And they're going to take it down.
They might.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, they should have done that on SoundCloud and they haven't. It's probably because we don't play the full song.
I got it.
So what's happening is in the intro, like say it's a 2-minute intro, it's playing very quietly in the background. Then there'll be like a 5-second, what would you call it? Like after the intro is done and before the actual episode starts, there's like a 5-second play of that song.
Got it.
And then that's it.
Yeah, because that, especially with Spotify, I've been reading that like, I think someone from Libsyn might have written like, listen, just remember, you can't even have 1 second of copywritten music without permission or else you will be flagged and it will be a problem. So, but see, I feel for guys like you because they're a guest on your show and you're playing their song and they're obviously giving you permission. So I'm wondering like, how do you, I don't know. They got to come up with a way where you can somehow tell Spotify that, look, we have permission.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't know how that would happen.
Like, I haven't really thought through this, but maybe I just won't use Spotify. It's kind of a trade-off between like, is this really important to use the guest music? Or is it more important to be on Spotify? And it's probably more important to be on Spotify, in all honesty. So,
right. So I have I bought this MacBook Pro in 2009, and I bought a bunch of drum samples from Ocean Way Drums. They were pretty expensive, but really awesome drum samples, like a real drum kit samples, not like just electronic drum samples. And a bunch of different drum kits. That was the whole thing. So, and then I was using Ableton Live to make, beats and tracks. And like, I had this whole idea that I was going to like recreate a bunch of songs from one of my old bands. Cause I was in a band that like was awesome and the musicians were awesome. And I was like, I really wanted us to make a real album, but we never did. So I was like, oh, I'll buy these awesome drum samples. I'll program them myself because I was the drummer. And then I'll get these other guys to play on it. And boom, then you can have a record. And what I realized was when I started programming the drums was that even though there are ways to actually make programmed drums sound more human, like, it just like randomly staggers the beat just a hair. And it's like, it just kind of helps it feel more human. But even still, it's like, nah, you can't really recreate the sound of someone playing a drum kit to, with samples. So, well, for me, I couldn't. And again, I'm not like an electronic music guy or a programmer. So it was hard, especially the cymbals and the hi-hat. I mean, that's always the hardest for me.
Yeah. Totally.
Because that's where the nuances come in and the really the expressive-ness comes out, So, but then I used like, little synths and little bass synths. And like, I would come up with these little beats and stuff. And so really the whole reason I'm bringing this up is to say that I created some of my own little beats for like intros to podcast episodes and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool to make your own because then, and they were simple. It wasn't like a song or anything. It was literally like a beat that you would play for 3 seconds and then fade out. But it's awesome because then I could just be assured that it would never be flagged as copywritten music.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I want to ask you about, you use different music for every single episode?
Yeah, usually.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, with the industry guests, it's actually, since Connor's been editing, here's this loop that we use. Because I think, now that I'm thinking about this and talking about it with you, I think it is helpful to have like a familiar sound each episode. And so we do actually use like a little jingle regardless of who the guest is, even if they're an artist, and then we'll have their song play like after the intro, which is done in post and before the actual interview.
Got it.
So and where that would be, for instance, is I do the intro, then I cut to like a pre-roll, and then in that cut the little jingle comes up. So it's before and after that pre-roll.
Got it.
And then goes into the interview.
All right, cool. So what else about your audio production? I mean, have you ever taken, I know you're sort of training people now how to produce electronic music. Did you ever, take any courses or classes on like audio engineering stuff?
I didn't. I was very close to going to SAE a number of years ago, but decided not to. Which was a good decision. I think that, at least in New Zealand, there's not much of a market for that kind of stuff. But all self-taught, had a number of people helping me out, mentoring me. But yeah, all self-taught.
And so as being self-taught, what's been the hardest part to learn for you?
Oh man, I think in terms of music, audio production, I think the more theoretical side of things, because that can be a grind sometimes, but music theory, like really learning that, more intricate parts of mixing, engineering. I think it's very easy when you're self-teaching yourself to just focus on what's enjoyable to you or what's most enjoyable, because these other things aren't, like I said, they can be a grind, but they're still interesting. But I think that more dry or it's more difficult, actually. Like doing the more difficult stuff without having someone to keep accountable to. At least when you're at school, like you have deadlines and, like a set schedule and that's helpful. But, yeah, I think that's what I struggle with quite a lot, and still do to an extent. But there's ways to kind of work around that.
So how about trusting your ears? I mean, you have those Audio-Technica headphones. I mean, do you obviously you're listening to music and producing music, so you're obviously mixing on your headphones and then listening on other speakers as well. Have you sort of trained your ears pretty well?
I think so. And I would like to have been more intentional about that early on. But I think it was largely a result of like playing music and growing up in a musical family, always had an ear for it. And when I started making music, like I knew that what I was making didn't sound good. I just couldn't really pinpoint why, because I didn't have the knowledge. As I gained that knowledge, it was like, okay, no, I know why this sounds bad. Let me fix it. Or I would compare it to like another professionally produced track and notice the discrepancy and think about how do I get it up to that stage? Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know if you've come across like Sound Gym and all that kind of stuff. It's like you pay $10 a month and there's these ear training.
Yeah.
Yes, it's cool, man.
I saw that Sound Gym. I did. They had some contest for the holidays. They're like, ooh, you have to take this test, and if you pass, you get entered into, the drawing for something. And it was fun. I kind of like that stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what are some of your personal favorite electronic music albums ever?
Albums.
Oh, wait. How old are you?
I'm 22.
Oh, okay. That's why he's like, albums? What the? Oh, dude. Dude, that hurts some of us.
No. I can name some. I can name some albums.
I'm kidding.
But they won't be old ones. Like they won't be, I think, well, my favorite EP/album is Koan Sound's Sanctuary EP with Acer. That is the most phenomenal music I've ever listened to. To me, it is like the pinnacle of electronic music. It's not dance music. It's not something you'd hear in a club. It's just like, it's an adventure. I would say that. I would say BT's This Binary Universe is awesome. And Matt Zo's Lucid Dreams, I think it was called Lucid Dreams, or maybe something else. But his second to the last album that came out was really good. But yeah, like it's not really an albums market nowadays. I mean, it's just singles, which I get it. Like I think it's kind of unfortunate. Like I enjoy listening to a body of content, not just a song. But it's just not it's not economical to do that anymore.
Right. At
least in this market, which is just the way things go. So
yeah,
I really do enjoy it when a good album comes out.
Yeah, and the reality of most albums is that even a good album only has like 2 or 3 really good songs on it.
Yeah,
and if it's an all-time classic album, well, some albums actually have every song is a good song, but that's very rare. And there's others that 60 or 70% of the songs are really good, and then there's like a few songs that are like they're okay. But no, I understand that's how it is nowadays, that it's more of like you just put out your best thing, you show your best and that's all you show kind of thing.
What happens a lot in the electronic music world, and it's not limited to this scene, but people will release like 8 singles in a year and then just compile it into an album at the end of the year. But you've already heard it all, so it's like, there's nothing. I mean, they might have 1 or 2 songs that they haven't released, but
yeah. Hey, what about the Beastie Boys, License to Ill? How about that album?
Oh man, that's I can't say I've listened to that all the way through.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Not that that's like my favorite album or anything. It's just funny, but a lot of it's electronic. But yeah, that came out like in the late 80s or even the mid 80s when I was like in high school.
That's probably why I haven't listened to it all the way through.
Yeah. But and like compared to these days, but it is what it is. It has the character, sure. Right? I mean, even right before we started recording this session, I was listening on YouTube. I was listening to Merciful Fate. There's an album called Don't Break the Oath from 1984. We used to listen to that on the roof when we were roofing. We used to listen to Sabbath and Metallica and, back in the 80s. And it's like...
I used to be well into Black Sabbath and Metallica and all those guys. Like, that was my early teenage years.
Right? Which was, what, maybe 9 years ago? So you're talking 2008, 2009?
Yeah, around then, yeah.
That's so cool. Wow, it's just...
Yeah, man, I miss that stuff.
Yeah, it's there.
I heard Tom Sawyer, Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
The other day when I was watching, we were watching a movie, girl and I, and then it came on a trailer. I was like, oh, this song. I haven't heard this in a decade. I love this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so much classic stuff. And it all, and the argument that the old musical people have against the new music is that a lot of the older music had character. Like it had a flavor. It was unique. It was what it was. The Beastie Boys, there was no one else like the Beastie Boys. Merciful Fate, no one else like them. Sabbath, everyone had their own flavor. And like now, I mean, obviously different singers have their own flavor now, but it's just now everything sort of has been melded together and it's much more bland, sort of.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. As much as I don't want to, because I feel like every generation in history has said that about the previous generation.
Right.
And I feel like 20 years from now, we'll be looking back at, 2018 and going, music was better back then,
Right.
But I do agree. Like, I think there's just a lack of pushing the boundaries and with those older groups and artists, you can listen to them or you can hear a song, even if you haven't heard that song from them before, and it's by them.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's Metallica.
Right.
I just remember that so distinctly, listening to the radio and going, this must be my Metallica. And then, they said it after the song plays, like such and such by Metallica. I was like, I knew it. Nowadays, it's way harder to do that. Like, I listen to the radio hardly ever, but Spotify, for instance, and if I'm just listening without looking at who it's by, I won't be able to tell. Like, sometimes, this is probably this artist. Other times it's like, I have no idea who this is because it sounds so much like everything else.
Right. And the other distinction between old music and new music, or possible distinction, is, like character, like I said, but the other one is the songwriting and the lyrics. Just think of the Beatles, okay? Think of how how simple the lyrics are, how memorable the songs are, how timeless they are. And like now, a lot of times when I hear the radio, which is very rare, but sometimes if I'm in the car and I'm switching stations, like I'll hear a song come on and either it's someone like sort of like whining and like just be like, they're not even really like they're not like showing any talent. It's just weird. But mostly the lyrics, it's like the words they're saying are so dumb. It's like it's not creative at all. I mean, and it's horrible. Like
it is, man.
It doesn't convey anything. It's like it sounds like me talking to you. Like I can say certain phrases to you, but I would never anything I've said on this episode, I would never put it in a song and say those are my lyrics. Like, no, dude, that's like two people shooting the shit and just talking.
Exactly.
I mean, how about something poetic? How about something with some depth and some substance?
100%.
Yeah. And someone's going to say, oh, no, there are people today who are writing great lyrics. I agree. There must be, right? There must be some guy out there who's writing good lyrics. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I'm with you, man.
That's the way it is, and it's okay.
I think it is like a phase, though. Like, I'm not pessimistic about the future. Who knows, actually?
I was going to say, I am. No, come on.
I have no reason to not be pessimistic. Well, I have no reason to be optimistic either. So
exactly.
Here we go.
No, and just like the same thing happens in all societies, right? They come to a peak and then they decline. And I don't see how anyone can say that the U.S. is not declining in a million ways,
Yeah.
Now that's not a political statement or anything. That's just in terms of values, right? In terms of authenticity and values. That's what I'm talking about.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. But you're in New Zealand. So it's a whole different world over there, man.
Very isolated. It's a great country to live in.
It's the next day over there.
Yeah, it's Friday today.
Right? For me, I'm Thursday afternoon. For you, it's already Friday late morning.
So almost lunchtime, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, Sam, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show and just sharing all your stuff with us. All your links will be in the show notes. The EDMProd, that's your show. But if people have to look, they might look for what? The EDMProd podcast.
Yeah, try both. I mean,
yeah, it's a cool name. I like it. Prodcast.
Thanks, man.
That's cool. But everyone, right? You could tell people are like, you spelled it wrong. It's like, no, I didn't.
No, it's intentional. Come on.
So this has been awesome. All right. Well, listen, thank you everybody for listening. Sam Matla from New Zealand, electronic music producer. Thanks again for coming on. And check out all our previous episodes. You're listening to this. This is, we talked to so many different people who are producing podcasts that shared so much information. So go back into the archives of the Podcast Engineering Show and have some fun. All right, Sam, you got to yell out at the very end, sound great. Okay?
Sound great.
Here we go. Sound great!
Sound great. That's cooking, man.
Yeah!
You walk away from me where you can play that part so well. But you're playing out on me now. You like to lose control where it's quite a feeling, isn't it? They're floating, drifting down now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react some empathy. You change your attitude where you say I just don't get it now. You say your eyes so far away now. You gave up on me where some chance you gave me gave away. You say I wouldn't understand now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I say now it's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react so angry. I want you to know you were everywhere sweet through. I gone over all we've been through. Doesn't seem that long a time now. Things we did still hold their meaning. It doesn't mean it's still the same. You're pushing me away. You worked your theories now where you getting worked up on you now. You work your way around somehow now. Yes, it hurts me now where that you don't talk to me at all. Now that these words have slid apart now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah!